Let me ask you something, gals. Can you imagine yourself living alcohol free? Not just not drinking. Can you imagine yourself happy, healthy, never thinking about alcohol and just building your life? It's just not a problem. It's gone. Can you imagine it? That's the question we're going to look at today. Welcome to Sobriety Snippets for Women Over 40, where we elevate our mindset and trade hangovers for higher consciousness. I'm Becca Jacobson, and you have landed in the heart of Snippet Land. Gals, it's a Monday. I love new beginnings. You know that. And today's a really special day, actually, this week, because we are doing a little mini book study. We're looking at the 1979 book called Creative Visualization, written by Shakti Gawain. Shakti Gawain was born Carol Gawain, and was highly influential in the 1970s, mainly from this book. She did write other books. She was a publisher and an outspoken and well-known voice in the New Age movement. What on earth does any of this have to do with sobriety and giving up alcohol? Well, a lot. Let's just look, for example, at one of the major themes here in Snippet Land. We talked about it last week. You didn't realize there was going to be a quiz, right? Who remembers what we talked about last week? What was the topic of last week's? Anybody? Give me a hand, show of hands, please. Come on, you can remember. Thoughts. That's right. We talked about thoughts. We talked about overthinking. We talked about your internal dialogue and a mental diet, right? You're with me now. You remember. Well, thoughts, how we think, and what we believe is a major theme here in Snippet Land. I'm constantly on you to remind you to speak kindly of yourself, have compassion, patience, and love for yourself. Constantly reminding you that no matter what you've done, you are not unworthy of the absolute best there is. And I'm constantly reminding you that what we're doing here is building the best chapter of our lives, because that's what this is. And this is tied to what Shakti Gawain is talking about, because it has to do with what we believe about ourselves. Now, I often ask women what they expect, what they want, what the journey is all about. And usually what I hear is, I want to quit drinking, or I want my life to just be free from alcohol. It's always about the alcohol, but gals, it isn't. And what I also hear a lot from women is a lot of doubt. I just can't imagine it though. I know I have to quit. It's bad for my health. It's causing this problem. It's causing that problem. I know it's got to go. I've struggled for years, and yet I can't seem to quit. And I actually can't even imagine what it would be like, because how would I settle down after work? What would I do with all these emotions that are running around? What am I going to do with my anxiety and all the other things we use alcohol for? All the other things that alcohol works great for, right? Things like anxiety works great. And so we can't really imagine life without it. This was certainly my journey. You know, I knew I was going to have to quit or die, but I didn't expect to be happy. And I certainly didn't expect to be free, like really free, where I didn't care one way or another about alcohol. And that's what I hear from a lot of women. And this is a huge, 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 huge problem. Because if we're trying to create something in our lives, and I don't mean in the woo-woo manifestation way when I say create, if we're trying to build the best chapter of our lives, we're trying to give up alcohol and change our lives enough that we can live without alcohol. That is creating a life, right? Planning a life, taking steps to make a life happen. Well, if we're trying to do that, which we are, and yet we can't even imagine, and by imagine, I mean just think about, even say to ourselves, oh, it's going to be great when I'm finally free of alcohol. Have you ever said that to yourself? Oh man, it's going to be so great when I'm free of alcohol. Anybody? Have anybody said that? Anybody? No, none of you. I know you haven't, because that's not what we say. We don't say to ourselves, oh my God, I'm so excited about the life I'm building. It's going to be great. Instead, what we say is, how the hell am I going to do this? I know I'm going to fail again. And it's all thoughts of defeat. And when we do think about the possibility of succeeding and actually quitting alcohol, we just picture, well, a horrible life, a life full of anxiety and tightness and right? And so, what are we trying to do here? We're trying to build a life and we can't even imagine it. We can't even think about it in a positive way. Not one woman has ever come to me and said, I'm just really excited to start living without alcohol, right? We just don't say that because the thought terrifies us. When we don't know how to live without it, the thought is terrifying. That's why we're looking at this book. Not because we're going to manifest our lives, but I want you to see what Shakti Gawain talks about in here. She takes a really simple concept that is all over the place. There's lots of books on this. The idea of using your imagination to visualize your life. It's that simple. And then you build that life from there. But you have to start from belief. And that's what I want you to have. I want you to start from the belief that you can not only can you do it, but it can be a joyous, freeing, exciting thing to do. And it'll make the journey so much easier. Instead of coming into it with fear and doubt, we can come into it with some semblance of excitement. Now, listen, I'm not losing my mind here. I can be realistic, and I don't expect you to start doing handsprings about going alcohol free. But if I can get you just a little more positive about it, I'll be happy, because that's going to help you immensely on this journey. So if you've grabbed this book, today we're just going to look at part 1, chapter 1, what is creative visualization? Let me just back up here. For those of you who don't know, for 20 years I was an English professor. And so I brought some of my skills from that career over here. And periodically on the show, we do books from Becca's bookshelf. We pull a book off my bookshelf and we take what's on the page and put it into practice. We go from page to practice. We used to call these mini book studies. Now we're calling them Becca's bookshelf. We don't sit and read the whole book. We don't do homework on the book. Well, you can. I mean, for example, this is a very practical book and there are exercises you can try. What we do is I pick out key quotes that I really think will be incredibly helpful for us on this journey. And what she's teaching here, as I've already explained, will be incredibly helpful because I need you excited about this journey. I need you on board, not kicking and screaming, it's how I came into it. So let me get to the book. Part 1, Basics of Creative Visualization. Here's a quote that she begins with before she starts the chapter. Every moment of your life is infinitely creative and the universe is endlessly bountiful. Just put forth a clear enough request and everything your heart desires must come to you. Now, that sounds like woo, but my dears, it's true. And here's the important piece of that quote for us. Put forth a clear enough request. What we're requesting, like there it is right there. What we're requesting is, oh my God, please just help me not to drink. We're not asking for happiness. We're not asking to be free. We're not asking for joy. It's just like, please keep the alcohol away. Our goal is a negative goal. My goal is to not drink. That's a negative goal. I don't want you having a negative goal. I want you having a positive goal. Forget about the alcohol. I want you saying, oh, my goal is to live free, healthy, happy, and joyous. See the difference? And if we can put forth a clear enough request, and I'm talking here to your own subconscious, you want to request the life you're building. I mean, this is no different really than setting a goal and setting out to accomplish it. If you set a goal, you write it out clearly. This is the goal I'm working towards. And yet with sobriety, we don't lay out a clear goal. The goal is simply, I want to not drink and hopefully not go crazy doing it. That's not a very exciting goal. So we need to put forth a clear enough request. And I would suggest that the request needs to be positive, not negative. All right, in this part of the book, I'm going to read the first 2 sections. What is creative visualization? And then briefly how creative visualization works, okay? So from the chapter called What is Creative Visualization, here's a short quote. I can't possibly say it better than Shakti says it. Here's what she says. Creative visualization is the technique of using your imagination to create what you want in your life. There is nothing at all new, strange, or unusual about creative visualization. You're already using it every day, every minute, in fact. It is your natural power of imagination, the basic creative energy of the universe, which you use constantly, whether or not you are aware of it. That is how she opens this chapter, and pretty much says it all. Creative visualization is the technique of using your imagination to create what you want. That's the key for us gals. You're trying to create a new life. And I'm saying to you, come on, let's make this the best chapter of our lives. When I say to you, what do you want to create? I get back, I want to not drink. That's not what we want. I want to flip this over. This week, my goal is to have you flip this over and instead say, oh, I'm creating, and fill in the blank. And that's something that excites you. And this week, we're going to learn a few simple techniques from Shakti Gawain on how we can help ourselves by just imagining our life and journaling about it. Get it down, get it clear. What is your goal? What are you working towards? Please let it be more than not drinking. Near the end of this first chapter on what is creative visualization, Shakti Gawain wants to help us see clearly that there's nothing outrageous about her claims. Here's what she says. Creative visualization is magic in the truest and highest meaning of the word. It involves understanding and aligning yourself with the natural principles that govern the workings of our universe and learning to use these principles in the most conscious and creative way. What at first might seem amazing or impossible to the very limited type of education our rational minds have received becomes perfectly understandable once we learn and practice with the underlying concepts involved. I wanted to make sure I read that part to you because although I'm a big believer in woo, the cat's out of the bag, I'm now out of the proverbial closet, so to speak. I love this stuff, and I firmly believe in what Shakti Gawain is teaching here, but you don't have to believe it. All we have to do is at least agree that if we want to build the life we want, it's really going to help a lot if we can imagine what we want and have a clear goal in front of us, a goal that isn't negative. Now, in the next chapter, she explains how creative visualization works, and this helps us a lot to understand that there's nothing woo about it. It is the way our universe works. The first principle in this chapter is the physical universe is energy. Now, you and I talk about this all the time. I always reminding you that you have an energetic body and you're carrying wounds from the past that are actually frozen energy. And emotions are energy in motion. And when we get afraid or something negative happens and a negative emotion is triggered, that freezes the energy. And that's what we call a wound from the past. Emotional wounds that we carry with us are actually energetic. We are energetic bodies. We can't avoid being an energetic body. Everything is energy. And not that long ago, people were like, what are you talking about? But we know this to be true now. It's basic physics. There is no matter. However, what does that really mean and why does it matter? Well, let's see what she says. Number 2, energy is magnetic. Now, this is important because I often say to you that your emotions are magnetic. And so if you're feeling angry or frustrated, you're going to attract to you angry-making situations or frustrating situations. Our emotions are energy in motion, and they are magnetic. Why? Because energy is magnetic. Shakti says this, energy of a certain quality or vibration tends to attract energy of a similar quality and vibration. Very straightforward. So number 1, we are energy. Number 2, energy is magnetic. Number 3, the law of radiation and attraction. Here it is. This is the principle that whatever you put out into the universe will be reflected back to you. As you sow, so shall you reap. What this means from a practical standpoint is that we always attract into our lives whatever we think about the most, believe in most strongly, expect on the deepest level, and or imagine most vividly. When we are negative and fearful, insecure, or anxious, we will tend to attract the very experiences, situations, or people that we are seeking to avoid. Oh my God, isn't that what I just said, right? That is why I'm always asking you to look at your emotions. Think carefully about what you're putting out there because whatever you're putting out, you're bringing back to yourself. And that is why this is an emotional journey, gals. It's not about the alcohol. And so now that we understand the basics of creative visualization, first of all, we are energy. Second of all, energy is magnetic. And third of all, whatever you put out there is going to come back to you. Now we can see clearly why I want you visualizing and having and seeing and thinking about a goal, a life that you want to build that is positive as opposed to negative. That is why we're doing this book. I looked at this and I thought, this will help my gals to understand how important it is to not have the goal of not drinking. Instead, have the goal of being happy, healthy, and at ease and not obsessed with alcohol anymore. And more importantly than having that as a goal is believing it. And that, my dears, is what we're talking about on Wednesday. How to start taking our desires and believing them so that on Friday we can talk about how to actually bringing them. Make that desire come to life. Make it happen, which is what we're doing here all the time in Snippet Land. So that was our introduction to Shakti Gawain's creative visualization. Nothing earth-shattering, nothing overly woo, but unbelievably profound and powerful. As we always say here, the most powerful ideas are the simplest. If something's complicated, run away, because the most profound ideas in our universe are simple. All right, gals, I want to make sure you're aware of my new community called Fresh Start Foundations. And I am so excited about this community because it's accessible to everybody. It's easy to come in, leave when you've had enough. But here's the key. Here's what makes it different. This community is not about counting sober days. It is not about saying, look, if you're ready to quit drinking, the minute you sign up, boy, you better stop drinking, because that's what we're doing here. We're all in there. We're all counting days. And people who drink fail and then run away in shame. That's what most groups are like. That was what it was like for me. That is not something I do in my universe. We do not come in and announce to each other every day how many days of sobriety we have. Don't get me wrong, we celebrate our sobriety, but we don't do it like that. And the reason I'm mentioning this is that this is not the type of community that you have to wait to be 100% certain that you're going to put down that bottle and go for the rest of your life without alcohol. That's it. I've joined the Fresh Start Foundations with Becca. Now I can't drink anymore. Oh my God, that's terrifying. And if I do, I'm the odd one out and I'm shamed myself and I'm going to go hide in a corner and not show up again because it's all too horrifying. That is not what we're doing. This community is a place to keep coming back to and let it rub off. Let it rub off on you. If you're struggling to start your sobriety, you don't have to be perfect. You just come in, learn the strategies. We meet once a week on Friday evenings. I teach simple foundational strategies. We communicate with each other in WhatsApp and support each other. And whatever happens, you just keep coming back. Well, for some, they come in and they just quit drinking. For others who are struggling more, it slowly rubs off. And slowly, the day comes where you're like, well, you know what? Maybe I won't. Maybe instead I'll check in with the group. Or maybe I won't drink because I want what so-and-so has. You know, I saw her there on Friday and she's doing so well and I want some of that. And that's how this works. By seeing each other, by seeing others and sharing your journey, you get traction and you learn. More important than learning how not to drink is learning how to keep showing up for yourself. And that's always the theme in my events and in my communities. Those of you who did Juicy January will know that the theme of Juicy January was what? You guys remember? It was, I'm committed to showing up even when the water gets choppy. And what I meant by that was, no matter what happens, my dear, if everything falls apart, you have a glass of wine, what do? You just come back. You don't have to announce it. There's no bouncer on the door. Anyway, I wanted to make sure that you knew about that because I'm hearing hesitation from women. Becca, I don't think I want to join the Fresh Start Foundations because I'm not really 100% sure that I can quit drinking forever right now. That is not what we're doing, gals. I'm teaching you the foundations and you will eventually get it. Just give yourself some breathing room. There's a link to join the community in the show notes, and I would love to see you there. And if you're one of my gals who struggles with finding show notes, just send me an email at beccajacobson.com, and I'll give you all the information you need on joining us in the Fresh Start Foundations community. And you can start building something way better than just no alcohol. Thanks for popping in. Be sure to come back next time so I can keep your head on straight. Sending you buckets of love.